Alrighty then. It's time to get started. There we go. And then that. Make sure it's all working. Nope. Oh. Oh, wait. Right. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to the second installment of me programming Minecraft for Nude. Oh boy, we have a doozy today. So I can even figure out what it is. It's a nightmare, you could even say. Oh boy. So, I don't even know why I keep the server project, to be honest, because I plan on just straight up deleting it, but for now at least, we keep the server project. For the sake of at least referencing it, so I can see what it is. Although it has literally not changed since I started, other than like a random refactoring thing, then whenever I realized, oh wait. That was fun. Alright, now... I hate that it does this whenever you like, there's no reload button. Unless there is. Can I, like... Is it, like, in view? Not show view. Refresh? No refresh button. Lame. Alright. We mostly care about you. I need to move the microphone so that I don't end up... so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, so... collapse everything, and now go into the nice and lovely sort and render. Yay. Wow. This is the best function ever, guys. So, they have all this code that I commented out because this is what we need to discern, like, what makes sense and what doesn't. And let me just read to you what I'm pretty sure it's doing to the best of my ability. Alright. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out what I have written. Over here. Just to, you know, make it clear that we're looking at this right now. Alright, so. We have this if statement right here. And we, of course, have the else here. I have moved around a few things to refactor them. What was really stupid in here is, in an if... So, okay, let me just read this if statement. It'll make it more clear. If occlusion is enabled and anaglyph is disabled, and it's the first render pass. So, opaque render pass for reference. 0 is opaque, 1 is not opaque. Now, what it had is this if-else statement, except for there was an actual else at the end of this. This was inside of this if statement. Yet, there's literally no way for the setting to have changed anywhere within here, because at no point, I mean, this is on the main thread, so it's doing it one action at a time. This is not any way connected to the game settings code, so there's no way. Yeah, this was in here, and I was like, okay, well, you probably want that for, you know, if there is anaglyph, because why else would you put it there? So I moved it over here. Now, this may break things when I turn on anaglyph, so I'll check that, but for now. Anyway, let me read the rest of this. Let's just change this to... there we go. There we go. Just trying to make sure things are easier to read. Index. Dang it. I did not hit the Shift R thing like I thought I did. Alright. So, first of all, we check. I believe this would take in the from the 0th index to the max index, which is just from 0 to 16. And I believe this would be for the sorted renderer, so in vanilla that would be the 16 closest renderers to the player, which I guess makes sense. We'll start like that. And then also, we set those to all to be visible within that range, even though it doesn't really make much sense. Why? mean, I don't understand why you check this and then be like, oh, we're going to set them visible anyway. Then, of course, it will, it's going to try to render them. Render sort of renderers is a whole nother can of worms, which we'll get into in a bit once I figure out what I need to keep from this. And then, well, assuming I don't need help from the other part, but this renders the world renderers, so think about back to the sort of world renderers array that did exist. It would go from 0 to that index, and then of course have the same sort of parameters as this does, the render pass and the partial tick time. And I believe this was so that it could figure out the player's position, these. This figures out, like, it's like a smoothing, I believe, of some sort, between the, I don't really know, because it seems like it would just equal the position X, or the position, like the original value, but maybe it's like slightly different and more nicer. As we talked about yesterday, we have this round base 16 function, which we impose on the position in integer form to figure out which chunk in world coordinates it would in fact be. And then of course the only options it could ever be, well, assuming you didn't get like teleported, but it could, I mean, it could be any of that, which is why we do not equals 0, not equals 0. If it's 0, nothing happened, right? We're within range. We're within an 8 block radius of, or 8 block in a box radius from the chunk corner that we were closest to. If we got teleported, for example, then it would be very large, and then we, you know, offset. Makes sense. And then, of course, it could be negative, it could be positive. I got it a little bit wrong by saying it could be either plus or minus 16. It can be any multiple of 16, but if we're just thinking about, like, the player moving, it will just be 16, because it's a continuous movement. However, if there's any discontinuous jumps, it can be any multiple. Other than 0, obviously, otherwise it would do nothing. Yep. And then, so you can see, let's go into the slope. So, it renders it first for some reason, and then it renders it again. And keep in mind, render pass equals 0. So I don't really understand what this is doing it twice. Because if you look here, it's a do while loop in Java. In case you don't know what these are, essentially it's a while loop. So while this condition is true, we're going to do this, which is essentially if while this max index is increasing, but it's less than this, we'll get into that in a bit. And then the do in this while loop, essentially execute this once, and then check the condition, and then loop again. So it's always run at least once, which doesn't make all that much sense, but I don't know, I haven't seen them used except for very rarely in like Minecraft code. But anyway, in this do while loop, we start by taking the old max index and incrementing it. This is to multiply times 2, left shifted by 1, and I believe I might have changed this myself. Just like whenever I'm doing my refactoring, when I replace operations with the more efficient variants, I do that occasionally. Just like control H and then like find it. Extent set apparently is what I was searching for last time. I remember that. Anyway, so looks like for some reason we don't let it go over. I guess that makes sense, because if it equals, this will no longer exist, so it will get out of the loop. So this is like a bound. I'm gonna just like comment and be like, let me get rid of this. Actually, that's not a big deal. It's pretty obvious. It bounds it, and then it has like this thing. And keep in mind, this is like per region. I'm not really sure. Nope. Okay. So the thing we have to keep in mind here is that even though it is like yeah, it looks like it's going. So essentially, let's imagine this, the way it's looping. Okay, so first of all, we need to keep in the context. Sword world renderers means the 0th index is the world renderer that is as close to you as possible, as close to the camera as possible. And then the last index is the world renderer that is as far away from the camera as possible. So this means that it'll start from the closest, and then it will expand in a spherical radius outward from there. Now, it appears that every time it'll double it, because of course it needs to keep up with the fact that the radius is increasing. And then, after doing that, it will then loop through that, and it will apply its masks and all that, it actually disables everything. And then it checks occlusion. So if we look here for just these render calls, I'm going to separate them actually. We disable these 4 things: texture 2D, lighting, alpha test, fog, disable, yep. Then we check occlusion. And then we push the matrix after that, which is interesting. And then after that, we go through this really... I don't fully understand this. It doesn't make all that much sense. However, you can see now it's where it actually loops between all of the world renders individually and renders them. So, because from index to max index, like I said, the index is old max index, and then it's going to go to up until the new max index. So, essentially, it starts at the new batch. That is the next, I guess, sphere. If you're thinking about a sphere that is at one point, and then it starts at a point, and then it radiates outward up to a certain amount. And it's interesting at the very least, although this code is cruddy as hell, trust me. So if it's going to skip all render passes, which I don't remember what this did I? Do I still have... Well, I still have a shell of that function, I believe. So yeah, skip all render passes, and yeah, it's these two. So if it is visible and it's in frustum, then it will not be skipping the render passes. If any of these are... Basically, it's if it should be rendered. If you can see here, of course, we also have this needs calculate, but this is more so like, this is internal for making sure that we don't just keep on calculating when we don't need to. Otherwise, it'll just return nothing. I actually do... Hold on. I actually do want to change something here. I thought of something. So, I'm just going to create it first of all. Let's create a... Alright, so... Rather than returning nothing, although returning nothing would be somewhat fine, I'm actually going to return... I think this will actually pass a reference, which I'm not happy about. However... Oh wait, this is supposed to be a... Alright. Now... Actually, I need to go to... Hold on. Let me go to... What is it? I need to grab, like, any list. Any sort. Please. List? I know there's one here. Alright. I need to... Here. I just need to grab an array list or something like that. There we go. Alright. So, if we have a collection here, it gets the object list to array, and I believe we look for the to array object. And let's use array copy, system.array copy, which I can do this myself. I just want to make sure that's what it's doing. All right, so close this. Although, I mean, so here's the thing. It's not actually that important that it isn't a reference, because the only time it will change is so the only time this can really be accessed is, well, it might. No. Okay, I'm thinking about the nesting of synchronization and all that. So of course, this is gonna be basically a passive reference, and for this, technically it's actually technically gets a copy of the reference, which is basically the same thing, but it should be fine. And the reason why, if we're thinking about this, and also hold on, need to. We're gonna go and save it. Actually, I mean, that works. There we go. Get rid of a variable here. And then it will then return it. And then, yep. And the reason why, so we're thinking about this, of course, we need, if this weren't the case, go back to this manager here. This is updating every tick. And this is actually pretty great mistake that I didn't think about, but I'm glad I caught it. If it would essentially generate an array, or generate its data once, and then on the next loop it would erase it rather than saving it, which is kind of embarrassing on my part, but it's okay. Regardless. Yeah, it can equal empty if it has neither, which is sometimes can occur then we do nothing. But this will pass, of course, the reference in for this tuple, and then it will pass it in here. The reason why this is fine is because this is synchronized to the world renderers, and so if we think even right here, where then it of course, it sets the shells, and it puts them into global variable, it synchronizes these. So even though it's passing it by reference, it's handled by its parent array to not really matter. So it's just some amount of optimization when we pass by reference in that sense. Glad I got that. Yep. Move on. All right. Time well spent, regardless. Now, thank you. I'd rather at least not have the entire screen covered in red. Next, let's move on to examining the rest of these. So, of course, as I mentioned before, it disables all of these OpenGL calls. Well, You can say, I mean, these are basically disabling because all of them are being set to false. All 4 of these are being set to false. Basically, it's just turning it into raw vertices, if I had to guess. I don't know, though. To, like, you know, reduce the... I don't know precisely what it will do, but you know, assuming it does something when it checks the occlusion. Now, right before we actually render again, I don't understand. Let me make sure I'm reading this properly. Yeah, okay. Okay, I understand now. This just immediately, so... Huh. By the way, I would at least be cautious because I don't understand how occlusion works in the context of Mjrlun. I understand like the basic concept, but I don't understand how it's programmed or anything. I would be cautious in how I approach this by doing, of course, following the same OpenGL call order as vanilla. So, anyway, so this is the first, and this is for everyone else. And for everyone else, if it's going to skip all render passes, it basically means there's no reason to render it. It's not visible on screen because it's hidden by something. It seems like it disables it in Frustrum, even though, like, part of it is. I don't really know what this precisely does. However, it does skip. Looks like it just skips. Hold on. So, at the end of... Huh. Okay, so... Okay, let's go ahead and label this. I don't know precisely, so I'll get into that in a bit. Does something occlusion related, and then it will, and then of course we'll get into that in a second. So the reason why you may, if you're thinking about playing Minecraft, why whenever you're loading into the world, it seems to render in a fashion which is like radially outward as opposed to just like linearly, essentially, just in a line. That would be why. In my code, for reference, the plan is at least that it's rendering fast enough to where it doesn't matter. However, I cannot really guarantee that, so I'll try to figure it out though, so it's not that big of an issue. It is what it is. Well, this is drafting and trying to understand what it's doing. So, anyway, let's go ahead and mention... I wonder what this function actually did. I guess we can go find out. I have the tab pulled up, but... Oh, it's this one. Got it. Okay. Okay. So this function is very similar. In fact, this is where I got it from. For the most part, this is almost the same exact function as this. However, this checks for every guy. And as you can see here, it takes instead of doing everyone, it does it from this index to this index. So it seems like Minecraft was doing it in bands and, like, you know, incrementing essentially, rather than let me think. It was doing it in bands rather than doing it all at once, which is respectable, but not what I'm going to do. Yo ho, a pirate's night for me. Jesus. No. No. I have not ever seen that video. I've only heard it secondhand in, like, actually heard it from, like, Seamanners several years ago. Let's just say that. Okay, and now we're gonna So I'm pretty sure. Also, these OpenGL functions are really nice and easy for you know, understanding what they mean, because they're like the exact same function. Like, they're almost identical. Check capabilities, do some sort of thing for the function pointer, then punch it into a native function. It's like, okay. Sure, it works, and it works well, but I don't know what it's doing. So I just have to, like, read what it's doing in Minecraft and hope that I get it right, so I don't... Looking at the OpenGL documentation, I have not been able to find it, to be honest, for OpenGL 1.1 in Java. So this, of course, this is really interesting, though, the way this is done. Alright, so this is what we talked about before. This is good for me remembering what it's doing for later, and also just to, you know, get it all written down. Make sure I understand it fully. And then goes into this nonsense. So I don't know why it has to toggle it off. Also, if I'm thinking about the way that my computer science class is teaching rendering, in a sense, I mean, not technically, because all of this is rendering related, except for, like, the profiler here, but there's a lot of MVC violations in Minecraft's code, where the rendering code is actively changing what the world looks like. That's because it only works that way because it's single-threaded. In this case, the world renderers are, well, for rendering, so... I should actually rename World Render to World Calculator, but I think it's fine. Alright, so next, I also just want to point out, can we just... so much easier. I'll also change to isn't frustrum as well. My eyes. I'm sure yours as well. That's fine. Wait. Okay, now these if statements are just becoming contradictory. So, skip or underpass is basically if, because it had a, so original world render. I can actually pull it up if I need, but I don't think I need to. I've looked at it enough. It had an if statement at the very beginning, which basically was if all of these conditions are true, then we can proceed. Which is like, if it's visible, if it's in frustrum, if it's it might even have the if it's waiting for an occlusion query result, don't do it, but I'm pretty sure it would have rendered anyway. That's fine. Or I just would have ignored rendering, which makes some sense. But if it's gonna skip all the underpasses, which means that precisely that exact same conditional, it's gonna set frustrum to false, and then if it's gonna render, if it's not in frustrum, then it's going to become visible. Now, this only happens if it's in frustrum. Hold on. Yeah. Excuse me. Gotta get to the bottom of at least some of this, even though the next thing is gonna completely baffle you as it did me, because I don't have an explanation for it next or yet. Just gonna do this. Yeah, no. I'll say being able to put the function on almost a screen on a 4K monitor while I'm at school using school computers. Well, not using school computers, using school monitors because they're 4K. At least the ones in the computer lab. It's just nice having the whole thing on screen. Beyond that, it's just like, yeah, I'm just trying to reduce the amount of stuff I have to read for later. From the looks of it, this is more like an else-if statement. And this then gets cascaded down like this. Which it definitely condenses it a lot, because what was before was a nightmare. Also, I'm really curious about this. If the way that Java evaluates an if and then else if statement has an if statement, and then of course has the else. But since you can have like single liners like I do here, where it essentially would turn into, if I wanted to, like this, where like it just essentially goes until the next semicolon is like a single line. If it's like else statement, and then then immediately is like, okay, well the next thing to evaluate is if it's literally like this. Oh, it seems to work, so probably is that case. Then it literally just goes else and then an if statement again, as opposed to Python, which is like elif like this. Really screwed up everything. Looks like. Kind of funny. I actually bet it is, because I can do either one, and it changes nothing. Wonder if it's evaluated the same or not, though. Because I mean, the compiler, the whatever Java. Is it called the compiler still for Java? I guess it would be, because it compiles it into bytecode for Java to use. As I mentioned before, it actually looks a lot like Python. I don't know if it how it evaluate an if-else statement like that. Or else if statement. Gosh darn. When I speak for too long, seems like it's gonna make my nose stuffy. It's so annoying. Alright, I guess this is like a weird distance-like thing. So we get the... First of all, okay, let's break this down. First, of course, we, So, okay. This whole expression gets turned to an integer, of course, cast to integer. 1 plus the square root of the distance to the player. So, 1 plus distance divided by 128 turned to an integer. My only clue for this. That can make sense, actually. So, in Minecraft, of course, we're going back to the, how does it look whenever it's rendering? How we're talking about, like, the spheres, they slowly radiate outward. This number will increase as the distance increases. To the point where, if the distance is greater than 128, it will equal 2. Which means, it'll, as you can see here, it'll modulate by 1 for anything less than 128 blocks away. So if essentially anything that's within, basically anything except for like a little bit that's within the 256 block render distance. Yeah, because it's 256 blocks is the diameter. It's a little bit further because it centers it, as we discussed before, in like an odd and not literally odd, like not the weird sort of odd, just as an odd versus even numbers. It goes 17 by 17 rather than 16 by 16 like I'm doing, as we discussed before with all of this with the round to base 16 function. Now, also I call these functions because they're like math functions as opposed to like programming methods, which I don't really like the distinction between them because I feel like, I mean, they're all functions, and some even call them functions. Some languages don't even use the word method. Anyway, think about it here. This will equal 1. Wait, no. So 1 plus this, and then so I believe, yeah, because there's not enough parentheses here for me to be able to see it, because it's like really far away. So yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's 1.0f, as you can see there. Even though I would like to mention, it only actually makes sense more to put the cast here and then replace this with a 1. So it is minimum 1 because I don't believe you can modulus by 0. Let me go check that actually. W3 Schools try editor, and we're going to go ahead and try to modulate 10 by 0. Can we do it? I don't think we can. I'm sure it's gonna print like a division by 0. Yeah, arithmetic exception, dividing by 0. Yeah, thought so. Didn't think you could modulo by 0 anyway, but wonder if they would define it or not as just like a blanket statement, never running, just always false, in like an if statement like that. I just had to print the value and it crashed. So anyway. Has a little floor here. If distance is less than 200. Just putting that expression in your parentheses and this one as well. Now, this appears to be essentially the speed of which it is rendered, because not only so essentially what this is doing is, first of all, this modulo by this, let's say it equals, 0. Like, just, it's just a simplified case, of course. Then, if this is less than 128, so this is 256 blocks, it's gonna just be multiplied by 1, always doing it. In fact, if it's all the case, it's always gonna run this, because modulo by 1 is easy. It's just 1. Actually, I think it's always 0. Because you can always divide by 1. And so that's just 0 equals 0. If it's 2, then the index has to be even, and the cloud tick counter has to be even. So, essentially what that means is that this will just be void if the cloud tick, because it's not ticked here. This would just be void if this is not the right cloud tick counter. And also, the index has to be also even. Then, of course, well, it would have to be the same. In this case, not equal 0. So, if essentially what this ends up doing, I find rather bizarre, to be honest. This value is, you can think of this value as a constant. This is a constant because this, so cloud tick timer, or counter. So this is evaluated outside this method. So this is a constant, and then it's saying equals this index. However, if you're thinking about this in terms of modulus, right? This is always going to give you precisely one value that is within the range that is, of course, modulus by this value, by for 25, which could be 1, 2, 3, and so on. The thing about this is that since this is a constant, this would be like 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. The only thing this has an effect on, because the same ratio, let's say, of world renderers will pass this if statement, as in it has to pick, let's say it's 3 because it's pretty simple. This value will evaluate to 0, 1, or 2, and it always has to pick a value between that. But that essentially picks our, if you're thinking about modulus by some number equals 0, it's essentially that's our new 0 point, as if it now equals 0. So what that ends up essentially saying is that 1/3 of these, of the indexes will pass this if statement. Always. So, the only thing this actually does, which, you know, maybe that's what they wanted to do, so I'm not going to change it, even though I love to make it less confusing, is every time the tick changes, it adjusts which world renderer, I guess, subset of this subset of, you know, the sphere gets rendered, or gets this occlusion check, I guess, in this case. I'm going to call this the delay factor. This should help me for later, assuming I don't end up just deleting this all today. Or figuring out. So, from what I understand, this is basically just a big like, ruse for some delaying. So, that's why it's a delay factor. If these were powers of 2, I would actually, if this was always a power of 2, I would immediately, change this to an and symbol, and then do -1. It's not, so if it was always like 1, actually it'd be better if it was 1, 3, yeah, it would be 1, 3, 15, next one's 63, next one's 31, then it goes 63, then it would go to 127, then it would go to 255, so on, yeah, so it's a powers of 2. Anyway, not that important. This next one is interesting, because I don't really understand what this is doing. I forget what this was. Let me see. I should be able to see it in World Renderer Shell as World Renderer Shell is a mock thingy, and this is what it does. So as you can see, it just takes an X, Y, and Z, but then it figures out what the actual position is going to be. And then, in case you're wondering, this is so in here, try draw, it just plugs in the values rather than having to go through it all. That's not that important though. It just pre-calculates it because that's the point of the World Renderer helper. Or the World Renderer managers. Just do everything for it. We don't have the variable in here anymore. We do have the clip. Let's see. Is that what we're asking for? No. X, Y, plus X minus. What was this value? I guess the way we can figure that out is by... Well, I think I understand what it is, but I'm not certain. It is probably the wait. Is it just the negative variant? Cause that'd be kind of lame. I think it actually might be. Anyway. These numbers are stupid. Not equaling 0.0f. This is, in case you're wondering, this statement is virtually always true. The reason is because for something to equal 0.0f precisely, it has to so this not equal sign, think about in terms of Java, or I guess in general, this checks if the memory addresses or the references are the same. So if your variable is precisely 0.0f, or 0, so I don't know if there's any leeway on that, like if you have a really, really tiny number, but this is virtually always occurring. And see him right there. And then it checks the occlusion query, and then for some reason it translates. So I can tell this is an important operation, but I don't understand what it means. So, what does this mean? Actually, I'm still baffled by what's inside the if statement, but I was thinking about this if statement again. Is the case in modern Minecraft, or more modern versions, I should say, that the chunks are rendered in a, well, it depends. Some of them, I think it actually will tend to even out as you get farther away, if I remember correctly, but at least the closer chunks seem to be rendered roughly randomly. And they're like, isn't this a weird, like, smorgasbord? That's a funny word, but sort of pattern. So, that would mean this is applied to each shell. Yeah, this is applied to each shell. So essentially, it evaluates on all radii and will render some of them. And I wish these functions were more transparent. So Hmm. You can't do that? Yeah, you could. Where's that? Oh, that probably is only for already instantiated variables. Oh, this song brings back the good old days. Although, I mean, I guess I'm kind of trying to recreate them. I'm also trying to move forward into a better, Minecraft, but it does really bring back the good old days. This pesky freaking translate function wasn't here. Swear it. I think what may unlock at least a few things in respect to maybe I can factor some things is opening up. Actually, I have the vanilla version, so let me look at that. What is it? What is those XYZ minus? Jesus, okay. If not, I'll just download it, and that might take a little bit, but I don't. Yeah, I hope it doesn't jeopardize the stream. Alright. I have it on my laptop, so I can download it. That is the. Oh, that's not what I wanted. The MCP reference. Yep. It's only 143 megabytes compared to my, like, 500 or something. I don't know. I actually don't know what it is anymore. I'll take a look. What is it? Did I actually say the file size anywhere here? Nope. Alright. Cool. So I guess we'll just, like, see it. Rather than downloading the background, I just want to see how large the thing is, because I made it to where it does not include the resources folder because it's just redundant data that it's re-downloading from Dropbox anyway. All right. All right. So pose x minus is what does this mean? It's like it's a really weird number. Okay. Okay, this gives me a nice perspective, though. It's the position X, but a little bit extra. Suppose y clip is just zero. Wait. It's just zero. Okay then. It's just perpetually zero on the y axis there. And so this is equal to 0. 0. Just what's 0? Just put 0 there. Okay. And then that just melted that, at least. So that's good. But I don't understand what it's supposed to be doing on the X and Z axes. So that's helpful. It's literally, okay, so let me just read this for you. Pose y clip equals parameter 2, which is the y value, and pose y minus, which is what you were looking at before, is parameter 2 minus this dot pose y clip. However, you can substitute in the value of pose y clip, and that's par 2. So it's just par 2 minus par 2 equals 0. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't increment. If it was any value other than 0, aka if it miscalculated somehow with an integer, which I highly doubt, it would just be slow. But that happened. Yep. I'm just glad we're slowly whittling down the things here, because this is nuts. Awful. You know, I realize, first of all, I'm gonna be able to do this. And then then of course get rid of this. So I'm still so perplexed what this means. So essentially what this will end up doing is, okay, if the position X or Z is less than 1024, this evaluates to 0 because modulus by something less than, and it's just going to equal 0. Now, wait a minute. Are you serious? I think I know what this is doing. This value is precisely this. Oh my god. This is so stupid. The worst. So, and I believe for, let's actually plug in log. That will be natural log. I don't want that. I want, well, it's ln of 0. I want a log with like base 2. Hold on. Use Desmos, I guess. What is a subscript key? Is it? Oh, here we go. Wait, is this right? It's precisely 10. I could figure that out earlier. So this would be right shift by 10. That is the most complicated way to write right shift by 10 I have ever seen. The reason why, in case you're wondering, it goes from, with this and 1023 course, that's modulus by 1024. Let's think about this. If you take a number, and then you get the remainder of that number, and then you get the remainder of that number, by respect to another number, so you use mod on that number. Then you take the original number and you subtract the remainder out. All you are doing is getting the nearest integer multiple of the divisor, which can be easily written like this, with two very simple operations. Yep. It's not hard. I wish there was literally just like in terms of like, I'm thinking about this. Okay, so if you're thinking about this in terms of bits, whenever I'm right shifting by 10, I'm essentially deleting all the bits that are every decimal that is, or sorry, decimal, every bit that is less than or equal to 10 on the right hand side. So that's how bits work. We're right shifting them off the edge, so now everything 11 and up is left, and then we are left shifting back to the original position to where everything to the right of the 11th digit is 0. So aka we get the next multiple of 1024 every time at the next incrementation of, you know, the digits above. And I just don't understand why there isn't a bit operation that's just like, I don't know. Actually, does this? No. I don't think there is. Maybe there is. Essentially just delete these bits. Just like set them to 0. Like within this range. I guess that is precisely what this is doing, so whatever. Anyway. So this is some multiple of 1024. And then we subtract this previous sum. And then we subtract the player position. I still don't, after all of this thinking and math, I still don't know what it does. I still have no idea what it means. So, this is just splendid. Oh, I need a brain break because this is repeatedly very confusing. Alright, just reading some nonsense on Discord. I never seen have to use Discord, but it's the platform. Has the people that I talk to, so not much I can do about that. Not a big fan of Discord as a business, so. I was gonna say a second ago before I got sucked into looking at social media. I don't mean to tab into the wrong scene. I am so sorry. I was gonna say is I'm going to go grab some water and I will be right back. It's my fault for getting sucked into social media, but I do need a brain break, as you can probably tell by me access switching scenes without realizing. So, if you're watching the VOD, probably skip, I don't know, 5-10 minutes in the future and you'll be there. We'll be back on the screen with the clips on it, but it'll say be back soon on the. I think it's actually here. Let me go ahead and like. I'm actually just gonna move it. There we go. Can remove this here. And then, yeah, I don't know why it was in the Eclipse window, but it makes more sense for it to be the VLC bottom bar section, because that will just, it's like more global essentially. Anyway, so yeah. Hello. I am back from the break. My mind was so broken I had to leave for extra time. I'm sorry. So I still don't know what's going on. So maybe it's a good idea to I guess we could probably modify that. Oh, okay. Bro, it's not like a simple math function. Doesn't really support that as well, so doesn't really support recursive functions, so it's kind of hard. Okay, well, that's okay. Huh. The good news is, you know, if I decide, suddenly, ever so suddenly, that, I want to go to bed soon, which would be really crappy to do after I say I'm going to be back soon. That means I'm going to go a little bit longer. I would at least be able to try tomorrow at school and see if I can understand what's going on here. I have any clue what's going on here. Actually, I will say, I will be streaming earlier tomorrow, which is exciting. Because I'll be working on this earlier tomorrow than 9 p.m. Jesus. Get home at like 6 sometimes. Which are getting out of school at 4. Does this approach 0? Hold on. So... What are our constants here? It looks like it's player X and player Z. So very weird math operation. All right. So okay. What doesn't make sense to me is that it's added together, not set, it's added. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. If I had to guess, this is more of a wild guess, maybe this math formula is as a result of an extreme amount of, not extreme, but a decent amount of factoring and simplification, such that what this is supposed to do, because it's the only thing that could possibly make sense, is that this... Oh, do we use translate anywhere here? No. We'll translate the world renderers, but we don't translate. I don't think it possibly makes sense is it's like overcorrecting, or it's like correcting for and translating to the X and Z positions of that world renderer. Gosh, now that we have Tazwell playing, it's very easy for me to get more tired because the intro is very ambient and sleepy. Yep. I'm just so bewildered. Because translate. No. Not a single function in here translates. Does it? Oh, I don't know that what printers does, but obviously, if we're looking here, if there was an unclosed translation, then they would have included it here. It didn't. So, well, that would mean that would in fact mean that that don't make sense. Whatever this means, this is so. Just gonna do this for the sake of being able to see what's going on here. Doesn't make any sense. It's like some weird like leftovers. Well, for now, after all, song ended as well, which makes it even more like I should probably end the stream. However, I will say I did promise that I would play my guitar last time, so I guess I gotta play my guitar this time, huh? I'm gonna go grab it actually though, and tune it, of course. First dragons, because of course, gotta play them that way. Alright. I'll see. I turn off the filter on the microphone. There you go. Fuck. I'm gonna restart. I'm very tired. this song is hard, and also I am way too tired to do this. Best I'm gonna get tonight on that song. Alright, now wet hands, as it were. Alright. How was that song? That part up. Okay. Oh my man, these songs. Since this one is simple, and albeit not that interesting without the rest of the song. Actually, I could probably play it alongside it. Hold on, let's do that. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? To find it. There we go. Alright, let's boost the audio. Okay, yeah, it starts immediately. Unfortunately, I do not know my son Venus on guitar. That'd be great, though. Did I end up finding more notes in Alpha today? I don't remember. No, I think I did last night, though. Oh, I might as well play it. Why not? Alright. So, start from the top. Anyway, I would say step. It's it'll happen eventually. By the time I am old and gray, I'll probably have learned it. But for now, that is all, folks. I mean, I'll do the classic thing as the guitarists do. At the end, they strum from the bass to the top. Actually, I need to angle it differently. This is bad. Because technically, I guess you could also do like this, maybe from the back. But actually, you know, that works. But I prefer, yeah, like this. That's not strummed, but you know, that works. Have a good night, everyone, or you know, day if you're watching this another time. Hope you enjoyed some element of it. It wasn't a waste of your time. Hope you'll see me in the next installment of this series. I wish I had more songs to play, but I mean, I can just play the same ones if you want. Okay, I also know like a few from school, like that was like there's like variants on the song, but I don't want to have to go through those because those are difficult and hard to remember. So anyway, have a good night, everyone, and I'll see you later, I guess. Stay tuned for my community page because I will post. I'll probably post that I am streaming, and then I might like reply to it saying when. Like this is for tomorrow, but that's a general rule of thumb, probably the case. I mean, you'll see you'll see the video notification, like the live stream notification, when I'm going live, and I'll probably start doing that like earlier, so I have it scheduled, right, so people can like know when, rather than just like randomly pop up around 9 p.m. But yep,